that is the first thing that I am going to comment on. And granted, if you're in your 30s and you're not in shape, and you could be in shape, hey, how you doing, little mama? Let me whisper in your ear. That's me.
Where do you see my whoopsie?
Whoopsie.
Everybody, welcome to One Set. My name is Anthony Irvin.
What's up, everybody? How we doing?
This is my co-host, Jim Green. This has been a year in the making.
It's really been 23 years in the making. Who wants to tell it? You or me? I don't know. Let's do it.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Anthony Irvin here, aka Magic. Welcome to another episode of One Set. Hope you guys are having another great week. And I'm here with my co-host, Jim Green, aka Green Monster. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me, or not. Well, we're having each other. Whatever.
Having us.
Thanks for all the havings that we're having right now.
Thanks for the things.
Yeah. I mean, we're rolling off of this past Easter weekend. We are filming on Tuesday night, April the 19th, 2022, right? Two. Right? So this should be dropping on Friday. I believe that will be April the 22nd. And this episode is kind of a different episode. It's going to be part one of two, right?
Another two.
We've been wanting to talk about the topic that we have on hand. Ricky, put your hands down. Right?
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Ricky, put your hands down. All right. We've been wanting to chat about the conversation on hand for weeks, and it's not a wrestling thing. It's not a sport thing. It is a music and dance thing. So if you tune into us to hear us just ramble and about the whatnot, this one and the next one are probably not the episode for you, because we're gonna kind of get a little bit serious, especially coming off of the brinks of recent events and such.
Yeah,
and
but I think it's kind of a cool concept though too, because it breaks down, a little bit of what our mindset is as, entertainers, but in two different spectrums of the entertainment and arts. So Jim being a dancer, me being a musician, we had, graced this topic over like the couple past episodes we've had. So I'm looking forward to kind of, dissecting more of this tonight for our audience, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of perspective on what our, mindset is and how our brain works sometimes when we're, out at a show, or when we're, watching a dance performance, or we're watching, a band or artist perform. So this will kind of give you a little outsiders view.
Yeah. I mean, there was this one dance company maybe 10 years ago that formed, and they coined themselves, or they were labeled as Shaping Sound. And I thought that was just a super cool concept to appreciate mentally, because I'm like, Shaping Sound. Okay. So
I like that.
As dancers, like, we're literally taking the music and we're placing visual representation to it.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that, like, in depth. And I know when I've gone to watch Anthony play, whether it was him with a band or him in a solo act. I'd hear him play, but I would see things visually, and that's kind of going to be the premise of like the topic of conversation at hand that we have today. So I'm pretty excited about this episode. This isn't just us talking about, like I said, sports wrestling things. We have been wanting to talk about this.
Deep diving into our passions.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and we try to, cycle through and not give our audience, you guys, our one set fans, the same thing all the time. We don't want it to always be, we're just recapping wrestling, because sometimes, it's boring.
Right.
But, but sports too. I mean, it's cool and everything, but sometimes it can be a little much. So we try not to do too much of anything. And that's, when I have recently been telling my students, I'm shooting a podcast tonight. I got to get home and do this. And I'm on spring break this week, but they're like, what do you guys talk about? I'm like, kind of a lot of things. It's not, this podcast, we don't talk, it's not like a designated podcast, like theme wise. It's like, we kind of dive into the things that we like. Right. So we haven't done this in a little bit, and I'm going to jump into this right now. I am enjoying a Dogfish 90-minute IPA.
Yeah. Tonight I'm just rocking a little Michelob Ultra for you guys. So
we're trying to do that weight loss challenge thing, right?
Yeah. Hey, we're taking the night off from the water bottles, because we've been pretty dedicated, and everybody needs a little refeed. So this is our refeed, our refuel. So
cheers,
cheers
love
to
you,
brother.
brother. Cheers to the one set audience. Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Yeah. Also, my dad is currently in the hospital on a stroke alert. He just wasn't feeling right at work. Yeah, it was just crazy. I headed to my parents yesterday, and my mom and my dad weren't here, and I thought that they were at my aunt and uncle's, like, visiting them. And my mom texted me and was like, "Hey, are you around?" I was like, "Yeah, actually, I'm at the house. What's up?" Yeah, and then it was like, "Oh, I'm at the hospital. They're admitting your dad," and I was like, "What?" It's just
Squeeze me,
like squeamy. So weird. It was really a good thing, because my sister Kim was here, and he said he was feeling kind of weird at work, and then he was feeling okay when he got home, and my sister Kim was like, "You don't want it to be the middle of the night and something go wrong, and it's too late.
Exactly.
Just go." And so they did. If you can hear the noise, she's here with my mom right now upstairs.
Yes.
It's all good. It's all good. But
yeah, big shout out to Big Jim, on the speedy recovery for him.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's, they can figure out why this is a thing, and hopefully, it's just, I know only my closest friends and family know about this, but it's almost 10 years to the date where he almost died.
Jeez.
My little sister went to her junior prom. I had a show in Philly that I was doing backup dancing for, and before I went on to perform, I got a phone call that was like, "Get here as soon as you can." And that to me was like, "Oh my God, my dad might not make it to tomorrow." And I was like, okay, I can't cut the performance. Okay, cut. Like,
Yeah.
so my buddy and I, we did the performance. We said, thank you so much. And we left. We jet right out of there across the street. And in the parking garage, the valet couldn't find my car. And I just stood there. I just stood there and was like, my dad is like essentially dying right now. Can you like
do your effing job?
Yeah. Like, seriously, get off the pot and find my car because I gotta go. And then I was like getting off to drop my friend off. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm dropping you off. He's like, no, we gotta get to the hospital. I was like, I'm not taking you with me. He's like, dude, you gotta get. I was like, if this is gonna be it, like, you gotta,
Yeah, understandable.
And fortunately, my dad pulled through, and then we transferred him from the one hospital to the other hospital that I was trying to get him transferred to, but everyone was worried that like something would happen in the process.
Yeah.
But I was like, this particular facility isn't saving him.
Right.
So it's just a touchy subject. It's a lot. And in fact, once we did transfer him, he did code a couple times. He almost didn't make it in transfer. But yeah, my dad's a strong dude.
I was just going to say he's a strong dude. So
he pulled through and he's going to pull through again. So
absolutely.
Again, cheers to my dad. I love you.
Yeah. Love you, Big Jim.
So yeah, this is going to be, on that note, a little bit more of a serious episode. And it seems fitting because we've been wanting to talk about this stuff. So
yeah,
it's good. And take the reins.
So, I mean, like I said, we were talking about, like, I had the idea of, like, talking about, I wrote a paper when I was in my graduate studies, and I had a neurology course, and we were talking about neurons and all the synapses and everything, and how certain things fire off and everything. And our teacher wanted us to write a paper on certain things of the brain activity, and I figured it was always interesting to me that how a musician's brain differ from a non-musician brain. And I looked up a lot of information, and there kind of seemed to be, a correlation between, the brain and how a musician's brain and their synapses and all their neurons fire off versus when a non-musician is either listening to music or and vice versa. So that got me thinking, now that, you and me have had years in our, passion, we've come and, we've come to mature within a lot of our passion. You see dance in a certain way that I don't see dance. And I see music or watch musicians in a certain way where you don't see it in the same way. So I wanted to, pick your brain, and you'll be able to pick my brain on certain things of, so I mean, I'll kind of start on the fact that, when I'm, at a show in per se, I'm not only, just listening to what's coming out of the speakers, I'm kind of, dissecting, not even just like chords of like what the guys are playing, but like you're just seeing, the theatrics and dynamics of what those musicians are doing and how they're performing, how they're, with certain guys like, John Mayer and all these other guys, like they just don't go up there and just start strumming away. It's the way that, and the thing with guitarists, like the thing says like, sometimes like, oh well, you got to have the Gibson SG, or no, you got to have the Fender Strat to be the next best guitar player. Like, but no, the thing is sometimes it's the way your fingers work. It's all within your fingers of how that guitar is playing, because everybody has a different dynamic in the way they strum the guitar, the way they pick at it. And, that's the things that I hear of, like, when a guitar player and whatever type of instrument they might be playing, but like, you hear certain sounds like, well, how the hell did he do that? Like, or like it's crazy how those sounds are coming out. First time I heard Jimi Hendrix, like I just, again, when I was a kid, I just knew him as, the Power Man. I've gone over this a lot of times in my other podcasts, but as I matured as a musician, I started getting into his musical mindset and theory of why he chose to play like that, and how he was able to just make the certain noises. Like, he would do things with certain effects and feedback that nobody in that time era was doing ever, and people were just like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? How is he just, how is he exploding this guitar and, making all these different sounds? And, that's what just got to me in that point too. And it may, for a non-musician's mind, they might just be like, well, that was cool. But like, for me, it's like, I want to know how he did that, like on like a bigger spectrum, where, some people might say the same thing, like, oh, I wonder how he does that. But like, from a musician standpoint, it's like, okay, either it's like what effects or what type of, like, because some things you just can't practice or learn those things. That just comes from your own character. And I'm sure that's the same way with dance. Like, some things you just can't teach. It's some things that are just gifted inside you, and that's what brings out your personality of being a musician or a dancer. So, I guess going off that, what do you feel like, how people say, like, there's certain things you can't teach? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you're talking about specific like guitars and saying like, oh, well, you need this guitar in order to be producing certain sounds, and I don't buy that at all. I like, as a dancer, I don't, and honestly, it's, to me, there's plenty of specific shoes that dancers wear, whether you're a jazz dancer, a lyrical dancer,
right?
About like a ballerina, or like there are specific kind of shoes that you wear for certain types of dancing. And I think in this millennium now, it's, you're either in bare feet, or you're in socks, or you're in shoes, like sneakers, And it's very much like, I never appreciated the sock thing, for a reason. I mean, I don't know if I can explain it, other than I just think, like, if you're going to wear something on your feet, like, wear a particular shoe. But at the same time, I'm not judging, because when I was a freshman in high school, I started dancing in my bare feet, and like jazz, lyrical, ballet, even. I did everything in my bare feet, built my calluses on my feet, so that I could, like, I don't like, and right now I love not wearing shoes or socks. I don't have anything on my feet right now, and my dance floor is right there, and I could go step on it and start getting to work.
It just comes naturally to you.
Yeah, I don't have to sit down and throw something on my feet and say, okay, I'm putting these on. I mean, I do that for work, like when I'm teaching, because if I'm teaching hip hop, I'm wearing sneakers. If I'm, teaching an acro class, I'm either in bare feet, or it just depends on my lineup, because and it depends on the studio too. Some studios are okay with me teaching acro in my sneakers, because like I can still, do what I do in an acro lesson in my sneakers. So if I don't have to kick them off, I won't. Just for the sake of not taking my shoes and socks off, putting them back on, taking my shoes and socks off, putting them back on. But like you were saying, some people think, oh, you need this specific kind of guitar. To me, I have seen so much diversity in movement and dancing where I've seen people move gracefully in sneakers, and I've seen people move aggressively with nothing on their feet. So to me, it's just like, get out there and, make your point,
Right. And here's a little more in touch about the whole guitar thing is the fact that, I mean, the guitar doesn't necessarily make, and again, when we're younger, we always feel like we look up to these bigger guitarists and we say, okay, well, he plays great and he's playing this guitar, so that's what I need. But here's the thing. And I'm not pointing this out to anybody because I still suck at guitar too. But if you suck playing your regular guitar, you're going to suck playing that guitar. So it's more the fact that you, and just because, and not saying that you have to be a great guitar player to get those to get those guitars. If you want that guitar, and here's the thing: if you want that guitar and it's going to inspire you to want to get better, by all means, go for it. Because that's what it's all about. If that is going to be the thing that inspires you to continue to practice and perfect your craft, then go for it. But if this is from my experience, if you think you need that to sound better, or you think you're going to just miraculously play a wailing solo like Kirk Hammett or something, it's not going to happen. Because that's just like my perspective on that.
And it's so funny when you said John Mayer earlier, because I was literally thinking about him, when he's playing Neon and he's going boom 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 boom. Yeah. That video that you sent me of him doing that, and I was just like, he's not even trying right now.
Yeah.
He's not playing a specific guitar. Like, he's just like boom boom boom, and he's like, see, not that hard. And I'm like, all right, you're an asshole even when you're amazing.
Yeah. And that's got to be probably, I think they say, is one of the probably hardest songs to learn, because you have a rhythm on your strumming hand. Mind you, you're not playing with a pick, you're playing with your hands. You're playing, so it's finger picking style, and plus you're doing different chords with your other hand picking those chords, but he's picking certain notes out of those chords, and he's using that slap on that bass. Like, so if any guitar players watching this, they know that slap on that high E string or whatever string you choose for that. But he's just like, and that's just a perspective, like finger style picking that he's perfected. And there's been a lot of people that know how to play that song, but I haven't taken the time to really dissect that. I'm sure if I spend a day or two to really master it, I could get it. But I've always wanted to learn how to really be better at finger picking. I can do some basic finger picking, but it's not my strong suit. So, but yeah, that song in general is just a beast of a song.
It's like, if I can correlate that real quick, like for me, and this is something that like you or anyone could really comprehend or appreciate, like being flexible, right? Like if I really wanted to take the time to improve my flexibility, I could do it. But it's like, I feel pretty flexible already that I don't need to embark on improving that. So I don't go out of my way to be like, so when COVID first hit and I was teaching from right over there through a TV screen forever and ever, which I talked about in recent episodes, I stressed a lot. So my flexibility did improve because we did a lot of stretching, because like that was one of the things that was like easy to facilitate through Zoom, through the screen. But yeah, I think, that John Mayer lick that I was just mentioning, you don't need a specific guitar. And I think this is so fun. I hope that you know what I'm talking about, and I hope that, and if you're a younger audience member, you're probably not going to know what I'm talking about, but someone our age, like I feel like our buddy Matt Kelly would totally know what I'm talking about right now.
Gotcha.
The show Doug
Funny.
Doug Funny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was a specific episode about a specific pair of sneakers that he wanted to get, that like a basketball player was like, it was basically like Jordans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do remember it. Yep.
You know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yes.
And he ran into him after he got the shoes, and the dude was like, "Oh no, I just do that for publicity, and generally speaking, I just wear these generic sneakers because they're so super comfortable. It's like it's not, you don't need a high end this, that, or the other to do what you love. It's whatever suits you best. Whatever, yeah. And I always, and when I say always, I haven't thought about that episode in over a decade. Probably
that was a very good analogy. I like that.
Yeah,
because the same way that I felt when I was playing basketball, like, oh well, I need these pair of Jordans, or I need these top end lines. Like maybe that will make me hit a 3-pointer every or maybe that'll get me 30 points a game. No, I was still having goose eggs every time. but but no, it's definitely, and I guess that's more like a branding thing too. But everybody is like, oh well, he's using that. So, and he's good at what he does. So that's what I need to get in order for me to get better. Where, I mean, that's just good marketing and branding.
It is a marketing ploy for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, and that's how things sell. But it's all in. I mean, if you have the talent, the shoes or the guitar or the dance shoes are not going to make you look better. But again, I go back to it. But if it's going to make you want to practice more and inspire you to get better, then go for it. But it's just and I just had another thought of like, the musician mind, not to kind of go into another thing, but like, when you're watching somebody, a non-musician, when usually like in every once in a while you'll hear the band, they'll go into a bridge and it kind of goes into a different sound, maybe like what in the sense of a chord change. Now, a musician brain, they'd be like, "Oh, that's a nice chord change." Or they went into a nice like relative minor of the song, and that's how it kind of gives you a different perspective. But like the non-musician, we'd be like, oh, "Okay, oh, he just upped it, and now it's more happy." But like but then the musician in me is like, oh, okay. I mean, maybe not knowing like what that chord he might be hitting, or like, oh, did you hear like you next to somebody like, oh, you hear that diminished chord he just did? I did. Did you hear it? Like, but like, no, they're not gonna know that. No. But like for us, it's like, oh, that was okay. I see where he was going with that. But like, other people is like, oh, that just made the non-musician person is feeling the emotion, where the musician is feeling the emotion, but we know the essence of how they're bringing that emotion in through, either chord change or how they're processing, trying to get that over to the audience. So it's another thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's me where I'm watching a dance performance. If I'm going to any one of my studios that have a competition and I'm just sitting there watching the other studios compete, and I'm just like, I'm trying. It's so hard because I try to sit there and just enjoy the performance for the sake of the performance, but my mind immediately is like dissecting the technique, essentially, is what you're talking about, right? And I'm like,
right,
feet aren't pointed, legs are bent, your face is ugly.
Now, see me, I wouldn't point out all those, but I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that was an awkward face, but I guess that's what he needs to make. But you're like, no, that was just him being ugly. Like,
I don't sit there and actually think that was an exaggeration, but like, yeah. But I mean, Cheyenne and I were up watching my one Lehigh piece while we were at that competition, and we were watching routines, and she's sitting there,
right.
and she's watching some of the dances, and she's like, "Oh, this is fun. Oh, that's cute.
Right.
I don't really care for this." And like, just generically speaking, and in my mind, like, I'm dissecting the reasons why she feels like, oh, this is good, or this is not bad, or this is fugly, whatever. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I know why. Or, you know, if she's saying this is not great, and like, because there's times where, you know, we'll disagree because preferences are preferences or whatever. It's fine.
Right.
But I just think it's pretty cool. Like, you're talking non-musician versus musician, which is like just a casual audience member, right?
Right.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Whether it's my girlfriend, my mom's a different story because she's been around it for decades. Like she kind of gets the technical stuff. But if I took you to like a dance performance and you watched it, you'd be like, I think that you would be able to acclimate to like where, if it was terrible, you wouldn't know why it was terrible versus like, nah, just plain sucks. Versus like,
right, like I wouldn't get the point of like, oh, like I wouldn't probably get the like the technical parts of like, oh, they probably should have, you know, extended out a little bit more there, or oh, like their heels weren't, you know, on point, or they didn't stick that the right way. It would have been more like, oh, okay, that was a cool move. Okay, I didn't see that. I'm like, oh, all right, like they hit that on the one of that, you know, part. So I'm like, okay, that I guess that's a musician in me thinking like, okay, with the music and then hitting that, like, okay, they hit it right on that specific note or that count, because I mean you guys are always in like 8 counts, where sometimes like in a generic stand for music it's usually like 4 counts,
right? So like for us dancers, we usually coin it as be in the pocket of the music, or hit it right on this accent. So accent or accentuating is like, okay, on this bass, on this guitar lick, on this vocal, right? So that's a pretty big deal in our vocabulary when we're doing our work, is accent or in the pocket of the music, so that the visual representation accommodates the music accordingly.
Yeah. And you speak pockets almost in the same way as like, you know, because I think being in the pocket for like, you know, bass players, I think it's more sometimes for bass players and drummers, their definition of being in the pocket is like being like right on time, like their timing is like to the T. And like, you know, I mean, that's essentially the most thing. Like if you have a good drummer who's on time and a bass player who's right down the middle, you know, you can make anything sound good. So like, you know, the sense of being in the pocket, I think, is almost in the same way as what you were saying, that, you know, being in the pocket of like being able to hit on that note, or being able to hit on that drum beat or guitar lick or vocal, same way as in music. Like you're making sure that you're in time and you're in beat with the click, or, you know, the bass player is, you know, following the drummer, or the drummer's following this. So it's like I said, different vocabularies, but they all kind of somewhat mean the same thing.
It is specific to the timing. Yes.
Right.
Like being in the pocket is making sure that our movement is lining up with the music time wise.
Yeah.
It is very much so the same exact thing in that regard, for sure.
And I always liked, you know, that aspect of dances, like how you guys bring out the visual portions of the lyrics of a song. Like you're just listening to a song, but then you guys are actually visually bringing out, say the lyric is "the sun comes out today." You guys are visually showing, you know, that you're bringing that lyric to life.
Yeah, it's a tough ship to navigate, honestly, because like I have always um gravitated towards like the movement that I present making sense with the music.
Uh-huh.
But there comes a time where um it's too literal to the point where your audience is looking at the movement and saying, okay, this is predictable. You want to avoid that. So it's like you
Gotcha.
gotta find the balance there, right?
Right.
It's also like for me, I like to choreograph like to the background beats in the music because
Mm.
my favorite thing, and this is just a personal preference of mine, and this doesn't necessarily transcend to everybody and what must be for all. um, One of my favorite things is when a choreographer can emulate the background beats that you wouldn't you wouldn't catch just casually listening to in the music. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it could be just a background beat that's very, very subtle. Like
Mhm.
I try to highlight that so that the audience sees it, hears it, and then they go, "Oh my god, I didn't hear this song this way before until
Yeah.
just now," you know. um
Uh-huh.
so that's like one of my favorite things to do, but I try to dive in and out of like I don't want to I don't want to feel cornered into everything has to revolve around the lyrics. um and sometimes I like to work with and again, just a personal preference, I like to work with
Mhm.
songs that don't have words because it's almost free form.
Right.
Like you
Right.
just ride with the beat and you
Yeah.
say, make shapes go, because
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong at that point, right?
Uh-huh. Right,
um
exactly.
so that to me is like, I don't know, I get a very nice blend of, I try to work with lyrics and I try to make shapes that accommodate the lyrics, and I try to make shapes, and I say shapes as in like choreography, just like however I create movement, um that fits what's being depicted or conveyed. But at the same time, it's like you don't want to just rely on that. You want to jump in and out, which offers diversity, dynamic variety, which is like you don't want to play the same tone all the time. You want to switch in and out
Yeah,
of things. You want to offer variety, dynamic. And,
absolutely.
and even when you're creating, lyrics for your songs, especially working on, well, this current EP that you're doing is kind of like a revamp of what you've already done. But I
Uh-huh.
think, from what you've told me, um, it's a lot more about you're hearing how you projected certain lyrics and lines, and you're like,
Yeah.
how can I adjust the pitch just a little bit to make it feel a little bit more impactful, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty behind, and that's why I can't wait for this whole it's a full-blown album that you're doing now.
Yeah. Like I said, I am putting on songs that I'm re-recording but at the end of the day, it's going to be a full album of like a catalog of all the music I've been doing over the years. And I just watched a YouTube video today and I got an idea of how I want to, continue to make this, almost like a series. Cause, and this isn't the first time it's been done. Like usually, I've seen a lot of bands where if they're putting out singles, uh, every single, sometimes they'll have the previous single underneath the newest release, and then they'll continue to make it as like, they release one single and then the next single they have the newest single, and then the second track is the old single that they had, and then they put out a third one, then you have the other two right under that, so you're constantly keeping all those new songs relevant and getting people to listen to them more, and then eventually all that whole album goes out. So then it's like you're continuing to get streams on the newest single that you put out, and then plus all your older music as well. So I think that's what I might try to do as well, instead of always thinking like, okay, well, instead of making every single its individual, it'll still be its individual thing, but also keeping the older singles that I do before that still in relevance. So that, okay, this is, and it's almost like it's like you see each of those songs being built up. So it's like, one single, then two singles, 3, 4, 5, and then bam, a whole album comes out. So I think that's the way I might strategically do it. And I'm halfway through, probably 70-80% through recording this next one. I'm going to try to hopefully have this recorded by the end of the month, and then hopefully start the mixing process next month. And my goal is to get it out in June. So once I get this thing recorded, the mixing process won't be too long, and then mastering it all, because I usually just like to try to save a lot of presets of what I've done with the previous songs. So then even though each song kind of gives their own perspective, you don't want to copy and paste certain things because every song is going to be different, but at least you have like a template to work with. But yeah, going off on a different tangent, but yeah, I'm stoked for how this is gonna go. So it's gonna be like a full year of like releases for me, and this is something that I haven't done. I've always either put out a whole EP and just let it ride, or I've put out one single and then just been ghost, and then I just ghost everybody for a long time. So I think this is something that I'm mentally just trying to commit myself to, is hopefully every 3 months try to get a new song out, and then just continue to ride that wave of single after single after single, and then just eventually get this revisions album out. I would probably think, depending on how many, and I'm not going to release every single song that's going to be on the album because most of them are already online anyway. I really would just want to put emphasis on the re-recordings that I'm doing, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it's just amazing. And even with the last song, "Dreamers Are Believers," this new song, new for you guys, it's old for me, but here and now, it's definitely coming along. And again, it's night and day of a difference of what the song used to sound like and what it sounds like now. It's polished, it's more mature. I just started laying down some lead guitar on it. If you guys are following me on Instagram, you guys got a little clip of that. So yeah, it's just fun stuff. It's a good year. Trying to, it's a good music year for me.
I mean, like, I am looking at this Significant Other album by Limp Bizkit and just thinking about when we were in middle school, thinking about when the singles dropped and how it was strategic, right? Like,
yeah,
like you're essentially doing the same thing with this re-release of everything. Granted, it's work that you've already done, but you are remastering everything. Like,
Right.
These tracks that I'm looking at between Nookie, Break Stuff, Rearranged,
All
and
bangers.
Together Now, those are all the bangers, but like everything in between them, I'm not going to list everything. One of the best albums.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, and how they were released, and you can relate this to, you can go back to boy bands, Britney Spears, the pop age of the late 90s, early 2000s, and how they strategically released this single out of nowhere, and it's like, oh shit, are they releasing a new album? Like, and then out of nowhere it was like, yeah, you jabroni, of course we are. Like,
yeah, because you didn't have, Facebook and Twitter and all these things letting people know, hey, we're about to drop. You didn't have people saying, oh, click the pre-save to get the song when it comes out. Like, you just saw it come out that day, and like, oh, I guess they came out with a new album. I mean, you would watch MTV and you would get like certain things like that from like television and stuff, but online was never like, oh, I got to keep up on the band. I mean, you had band websites and stuff too, but it was just like, again, kids don't know how they have it so good these days.
I was literally just sitting here thinking, like, do you remember that time where we were listening to the radio for them to play that song that we wanted to hear because the internet wasn't a thing yet?
Yep.
I don't. Did we talk about that yet on here?
I think we did on a previous episode, but talking about like, going on the radio and clicking the play button, and sometimes it would either be in the middle of the song, and then you'd have like 50 tapes of half a song and 50 tapes of the other half of the song that you didn't make, that you got of the other songs. So you'd have to watch 3 different tapes to get the whole song in.
I was going to say, I swore that we touched on this previously, because like it's my God, it's unreal. I know, and I'm pretty sure that I mentioned, oh my God, what episode is this? 16, right?
16
I want to say Sweet 16. Oh yeah. I want to say it was like 2 months ago. I was talking about how I was talking with my one niece, she's like 15, almost 16, about rotary phones and dial-up internet.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my goodness, it's just wild to think about, like, the way of the world now and how accessible that everything is with the internet.
Yeah.
Especially music and dancing. Let's talk about dancing on the internet real quick. I will tell you right now, I hate it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Like, what now? Are you hating the fact that, like, not TikTok in particular, but unless that's what you're kind of gravitating towards, like, you think with like the TikTok dances and everything, you're not really a fan of like that type of style of just like, I really can't call it like a style, but like, I guess like, yeah, I guess like what are the things like you hate about like the online dance part of it?
Well, there's like
coming from your aspect.
There's 2 branches to it, honestly. The one being, there are masters in the dance industry that are, my age, in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s even. And they understand and they know the craft, and they can teach the ins and the outs of the tiny details that you wouldn't get from a 20-year-old, right? But
yeah,
the way of the internet is like, oh, well, if you're not showing up and dancing solid, like if you're not in good shape, then you ain't shit, right? So that is the first thing that I am going to comment on. And granted, if you're in your 30s and you're not in shape, and you could be in shape, hey, How you doing, little mama? Let me whisper in your ear. That's me. Um,
Where do you see my whoopsie?
whoopsie. Nah, I just little tangent, super quick. The weight loss challenge. Before the weekend, you and I were both just like, look at this, killing it. And even after the weekend for you, you're still doing well.
Which I was very
slipped off
surprised.
a little bit, but
And it's understandably so.
yeah, I also I'm looking at how much time I have left.
Yeah.
I did go for a 30-minute walk on a trail last week,
hmm
and I burned a couple hundred calories, and my legs, my hamstrings specifically, felt it. But I felt good. I got in the car. I was like, okay, I did that. Let's stay consistent. The weather's getting nicer after tomorrow, and that will be definitely a thing going forward. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Because I can't wait for Memorial Day weekend to be like, did I hit my target or how far off am I? I'm not trying to be off my target. I'm trying to be on it.
Yeah.
But I know you and I have both been like, hey, if we're at least close, we've done this thing. Look, I am already 20 pounds under where I was when I got to the point where I was like, this ain't good. And so
Yeah.
I made a conscious effort. And even when I'm teaching and while I'm teaching and dancing, I feel better. And I think that that's the most important thing above
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I've been
everything.
hearing from you, like, is that, we've only been really on this challenge for 3 weeks. And
Yeah,
even within the first week, you were saying, I feel a difference already,
already.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's, again, no matter what the scale says, your physical, quality of life is the most important thing, you know?
That.
Like it's more like, you can lose like 20 pounds, but if you still feel like shit,
Whoopsie.
then, you're just 20 pounds less, but you still feel the same way. But, the how you're feeling in the quality of life, even though, oh, well, I'm not losing weight, but I feel better. That's still a goal. That's still progress,
That's it.
So that's awesome to hear you say that. And, me coming into the weekend, and this is us not saying that we're stopping this. We're still full blown doing this challenge, and we're just kind of giving our open analysis of how these last couple weeks have been going. And coming into this Easter weekend, we were both in the Poconos, and I knew this is usually a weekend. I'm up, going up to the mountains with family, and Italian families love to eat. So, but I was able to kind of, you can't say no in an Italian family. Everybody knows that you cannot say no. So I at least just had, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I just usually had like one plate for dinner. It just and tried to just stick with, tried to stay away from fried foods, pack some veggies in there, get a lean protein. We had some salmon up there, which was cooked awesome. So I had a second serving of that because that was good. Got some veggies. I had some mac and cheese. Had a little small thing of mac and cheese. You got to live a little, and then we had a little bit of dessert later. Try to stick away from the dessert, but you cave here and there, and then but coming back, and I really didn't gain a lot. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be okay if I gain about 2 pounds. If I gain 2 pounds out of this weekend, I'll be fine with that, because you can just get back on trail and get back on track, and you can get back down to that weight within 2 days after getting back onto your eating schedule. But weighing myself in that Sunday, I was like, I either maintained or was like a little bit under. I'm like, I don't know how that happened, but I will take that number. And then I weighed myself this morning. I was a little bit lighter. I'm like, okay, I know, especially being at home all day, I was able to eat whenever and wherever. and I had a little bit more than the day before. So I figured, okay, my number is probably going to go up a little bit because, from a day not having food, then the next day you have a little bit more, your body's going to retain a little bit of water. Didn't happen. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So it again, funny how your body works. But I'm, and like you said, I'm below. I'm at a point where I'm not that I'm not good with my number right now. I'm good with the progress that I'm making, but I'm definitely back to where I was pre-pandemic. But I definitely want to, get to that 200 level. That is my main goal. But I mean, at this point right now, even if I don't get it by Memorial Day weekend, I will most likely still continue until I hit that, because I'm doing it in a way like I'm not starving myself. I'm not trying to think of you're thinking of that end date, and we still have, a full month to go. So we still have a lot of days to really catch up to our goals. And, it's definitely, we haven't done this in a while. And then, so the progress is going good. And we're taking out our adult beverages tonight, just as a little celebration to y'all, and and celebration, and good speedy recoveries to our big guy, Big Jim, again. Hoping he's going to be doing well, and hopefully he gets out of the hospital soon. And again, we were saying this is a part one of part two. I think we'll be talking a little more music and dance on the next one too, and kind of wrapping up a couple things. So if you guys liked this episode and you'd like to kind of hear us pick our brains a little bit more about music and dance, let us know in the comments. Let us know if you want to hear more of this, because we'll definitely talk about it more if you guys want to hear more. We love talking about our passions, but we just don't want to make it seem like this is all we talk about, because music and dance is a big part of our lives, but it's not everything. It's not like it consumes us, but we're more than being musicians and dancers. So, and we hope that over these last couple episodes of you guys watching, you've been able to see a little bit of our personalities coming out. And as we continue to perfect this thing we like to call one set, it continues to give us new perspectives on, and learning more about, me and Jim as our passions, learning about how we, see things. And sometimes we're thinking, like, again, sometimes we're on the same page, and sometimes, we're thinking, okay, I've never thought of it that way, so it's cool to really talk about these things and see how our thought processes are, even though we're in the same arts and entertainment, but we see things differently, but in a similar way, but we communicate it differently. There you go. We see it differently, but we communicate it almost in the same way.
That very, very well, my friend. Our one set friends, our audience, and as long as you're good with this, because I believe we are going to segue into part dos after this.
Doses. Make sure you guys follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and feel free to give us an email at onesetpod@gmail.com. Feel free to let us know anything you guys will want us to talk about here. And we got a lot of stuff, cooking in the episodes that come. We got a lot of fun things planned out, throughout the summer into the fall that we're talking about, getting some guests on. So we're always, trying to improve. So we're hoping you guys continue to follow us on this journey, because we are not stopping. We are going to keep on going, brother.
That. And cheers. I love you, man.
Cheers.
Thank you so
love
much.
You too.
Our one set fans, thank you so much. And
we love you guys.
To my dad, we love you. Thank you.
Love you, man.